share a story once each week. From the darkest recesses of this universe comes forth a collection of sentinels, a collaboration of the invaluable, a combination of derangement. Just S-4 with your host, Eric Cooper. Join us as we tear through the fabric of the natural world to reveal what is beyond. Get ready. It's almost time for the show to begin.
Greetings, folks, and welcome to S-4, where we talk about the serious issues involving paranormal and current events, coming to you live from the S-4 headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains here in our studio in Cape Horn, Concrete, Washington State. And again, remember, we've been preparing for about 2 weeks now for the fair next week. And it came quick. So the 11th to the 14th, we will be at the Skagit County Fair in Mount Vernon, Washington State. And we will be selling buttons and more buttons and, did I say buttons? And stickers and bumper stickers and mugs, t-shirts. And we'll have disaster preparedness packets. We'll have our paranormal equipment display up. And just look for the 7.5-foot Bigfoot out in front of our booth, and you won't miss us. And then we'll be at the Marblemount Sasquatch Conference the 28th and 29th up here in Marblemount, Washington. Again, there's 2 chances you can come up, stop by, tell us your story, ask your questions, and it's just going to be a fun time. Another thing real quick, I will be in a TV miniseries called The Town. Go on Facebook, look for The Town miniseries and like the page so you can stay up to date. I think we start shooting in January. And I will only be in about the first 10 minutes of the pilot series, and then I'm a returning character. My character name is Alan Daniels. Going to be a fun show. So tonight, it's August 8th, we are digging into the world of psychics and sensitives. What's the difference between the two? And how or can they enhance the world of paranormal investigation? What are the risks? What are the opinions of the general public when it comes to, you say you're a psychic, did you get harassed? We're just going to dig into the entire world of psychics. Sensitives, mediums, astrologers. Are they all related? So how are we doing tonight, guys?
Doing just great. How about you?
Doing good.
I'm here. I'm tired as hell.
Yeah, but are you alive or dead?
I think I'm alive. Pinch me.
No.
No? Okay. Am I alive?
I don't know. I'm not.
Oh, and Jennifer wants to give a shout out to Nikki.
Hey, Jennifer.
All right. Oh, Arnold, what's going on in your world?
Right now, I just sent you a message. I got to take a call from my uncle's wife real quick. He's on his last probably month or so of life.
Okay.
So I will be off for a bit.
Not a problem.
All right.
Not a problem. So let's get started here. So, Nikki, you are a psychic medium.
Yes.
And so are you, correct, Keith?
That is correct.
So, when did you discover you had abilities, and how did you develop them?
Well, for me, I discovered it the day I was born. I was in utero and decided I didn't like being there, so I found out I could astral travel. After that, I was working as a medium from day one.
Okay.
Yeah, so I mean, how did I learn to develop them? Kind of like you learn to develop sight when your eyes kick in. It was just trial and error.
Yep.
Okay, what about you, Nikki?
Didn't understand it when I was a kid. Knew I could hear people's thoughts. That's always a trip.
Mm-hmm.
Learned to block it out, and it's just like Keith. You grow as you learn, basically, or you learn as you grow. And trial and error, just exactly like what Keith talked about. I mean, when you're a psychic, and he knew it, I didn't know it. I didn't understand what it was until I was probably, it really hit me when I was 10 years old and we were in New York. We were traveling across the country, and when you hit areas like battlefields and areas in Pennsylvania where you're seeing horse and buggy cars going through real life cars, that has a tendency to wake you real fast.
Kind of like watching Roman chariots run across in front and drive past you on it when you're in a car. It's just kind of weird.
Yes, it's very strange.
So, I know you probably have, well, I don't know, have you seen Sixth Sense, Keith?
Yes. That one I have actually seen.
Okay. I know you don't watch movies a whole lot, so I wasn't sure. Would you say the reaction of the little boy with Sixth Sense would be pretty accurate?
In all fairness, yeah, it really is. At least I found it was very similar to what I was dealing with. You know, it takes you a little bit to try and figure it out, and then once you figure it out, it's like, oh, you again. I actually didn't realize when I was a kid that other people couldn't do it. I just knew they thought I was weird.
Same here.
And as a kid, did you realize that what you were seeing, other people couldn't? How long did it take you to realize that?
It wasn't until I was coincidentally 10 years old that it became public knowledge what I was doing.
Okay.
Mom and Dad tried keeping me quiet on it.
Right. Yeah, shh, they're gonna think we're weird. Yeah. No,
Well, unlike Nikki, I grew up in the Bible Belt.
yeah. That's gonna come up later in the show. As far as the religious side goes. So, do you think most people's abilities, when they're, do you think they're mostly with kids at the start?
In a nutshell, every child born is psychic. They are taught not to be.
Correct. And unless the parent recognizes it right away, that parent, I mean, if they don't recognize it, it gets shut down typically by the time they're 7 years old. I mean, really shut down.
Yeah, because usually that's a nice imagination. Now, would you mind growing up?
Yep, pretty much.
So, what makes it shut down as you get older? Is it culture? Is it, what shuts you down?
Most of the time, in my experience, culture and peer pressure.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. Other people. Yeah, big time.
So it's
once in a while it's fear, as in you see something you really don't want to see.
Oh, God, yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and that leads right into my next question. Do you feel anyone has the ability within them?
Yes.
Yes. In my opinion, absolutely. It can
totally
actually be trained.
Yep. So, you know, when it comes down to it, you hear I'm a psychic all the time. You know, especially in this field.
Yep.
So, but not everybody really is. I mean, I know everyone's got the ability to be psychic. I get that. But
It's
so
whether
many,
they choose to listen.
yeah,
It's
I'm trying to think how to word this. So many
Try
are
English.
wrong. So many are wrong, though.
Well, here's the thing. From what I've experienced, I found out why I've never liked the term psychic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I finally found out why. See, in the carnies, they bill themselves as psychics, and it really is pretty much guesswork. You know, for most of them, everybody's got the ability, but I like the term sensitive because what we really do is pick up on other energies that most people overlook.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I've just gone with the word psychic and medium because I've never really come across any other word that I'm okay with. I mean, I'm fine with sensitive. I'm fine with abilities and skills and all the other things that a lot of people really have a hard time with, but they don't, to me, really fit what it all encompasses.
You know, and that comes down to labeling and what people are comfortable understanding. I walk up to someone and say I'm a witch, they freak the hell out. Oh my God!
Yeah, they
I
do.
say I'm pagan.
Yeah.
Oh, okay,
I look
cool.
for the wieners. Because I figure you're going to get burned at the stake. I might as well use some fire product.
Right. But yeah, no, you tell people you're pagan, and it's way more accepted that. Oh, okay, cool. But no, you say just blatantly, I'm a witch, and they freak out and call you the devil or whatnot, which really irks me, but whatever.
I find it fun and comical at this point.
I do until they bring the pitchforks out, and then you have to pull your gun out. But yeah, that's a whole nother road.
Well, and you're not alone in that viewpoint, Eric. I've heard a lot of people who are witches who practice different forms, and they all talk about how if people found out and use that term, it causes a lot of problems with it.
Oh, absolutely. But that's also why I have legal teams that we have as assets for if we have to go that route. But when it comes to different communities, you still have the witch hunters, for lack of a better term of what to call them, and they are the ones. They are the ones that'll come driving up your road to kill the witch, kill the witch. Yeah, okay. You know what? Not all witches are all love and light. So some of us are armed, some of us do know how to fight, and so yeah.
I get a kick. Like I knew one that you'd get her ticked off, she'd get upset, and she'd mutter a couple of words, and I kid you not, like she used to get when she was just a kid, she'd get catcalled from the roof of construction sites. Only she had a bit of a temper, so she'd mutter a couple of words and they'd fall off the roof. Mm-hmm. Which, a little overstated, but we got her reined in.
All right. How do you feel about those that claim to be psychic and use that claim to scam people?
That ticks me off.
Try that again, Nick?
I said that ticks me off.
Gee, I was a little more blunt. I was going to be a little more blunt about it, but that'll work politely for radio.
Go for it.
So we had.
There are things I want to say and do when I hear that kind of stuff. Like an example of somebody on the East Coast was scamming some couple out of hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I'm just like, man, really? You got to do your research. If you're looking for somebody, you have to do your research. Are they truly qualified in what they say they can do? I mean,
much as I like the idea, Nick, there isn't a database out there that I'm aware of that is reliable.
No, there's not. And the problem is that I've been having, since the late 1990s, I've had I call them gut intuitions. I can't quite call them psychic hits, but they're definitely gut.
To me, that's just straight up intuition.
Yeah,
Listening to your gut.
Every time I've heard lists talk about regarding psychics, I keep getting the intuition that the government at some point is going to start tracking, and that worries you know what out of me.
Nikki,
They already do.
They've been tracking you since you were born.
That I already know, yeah. Yeah, and we don't want to go into what happened this afternoon, so, you know. Yeah, I fully get it.
The sad part is where it comes to people that use this ability to scam them, I have the same opinion about any of the other things. You know, when people take an ability, you know, I mean, the one that, I know this one ticks you off, Eric, is I see people using what they call stolen valor to scam people out of money.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And, I mean, that ticks me off just as much.
But, you know, and Obama came out and made stolen valor technically a First Amendment right until you actually are compensated for your false identity. You walk into a bar, for example, or you walk into a VA hospital wearing a uniform or having a fake ID that is stolen valor, then they will, you know, but any random Joe walking down the street with a bunch of medals, I think it's BS. Don't get me wrong, but you know, and I get a lot of conflict from other people because of my views. My views are: if you want to burn the American flag, I'm not going to kick your ass. That's your right. That's a First Amendment right. Same thing with taking a knee at a football game. If that's the platform they have to use to get the attention they need for a certain view, then by all means. That's their First Amendment right. That's my opinion. You know, so if they're trying to, you know, use their stolen valor to win over a girl or a guy or whatever, then so be it. There's whatever. You didn't have the balls to actually
use the ability as a stepping stone to get an honest relationship. I love it.
I know. I get that. Totally. But if you didn't have the balls to actually join, then that shows more than I need to know. That tells me more than I need to know. You know,
see, that's where I lucked out.
Good luck, dude. And Skywatcher,
I lucked out in a sense.
Huh?
The military wouldn't take me. Something about epileptics and automatic weapons.
Oh no, I get that. But you would have gone had you been able to. You know,
yeah, my family's military.
I'm talking about the ones that have the ability to go but won't. And then even in the military, you've got the ones that are in the military, but oh my God, I didn't join for combat. I'm not going to go to combat. And
well, what the heck did you get in there for?
Absolutely. You know, and then you got the conscientious objector. Now, if you've gone to war and you become a conscientious objector based on what you saw in combat, I can respect that. But if you haven't gone anywhere, and all of a sudden you just pop up with, well, I don't want to deploy, so I'm a conscious. No, hell no. Get the hell out of my army.
See, Nikki and I are in the same boat, I think, if you know, being mediums. And in my case, I remember past lives, which means I never gone into the war this time, but I was in World War I was in the Roman Legion. You know, I remember the horrors of war.
I do too. There are things that I don't ever care. I remember being Native American. I have many different lifetimes being Native American. I have many different lifetimes in Germany where I was a prisoner of war. Well, not many lifetimes in that, but I have. Yeah, sorry.
That was quick turnaround.
I did not mean to say it that way.
Okay, real quick.
Specific lifetime where I died as a prisoner of war, and that was there's certain movies I cannot watch because of it.
So Skywatcher, we will get to that question. Actually, it's on my list of questions to ask. And I want to bring this up. This is a good point. So Jennifer Lane is in the chat, and she said, I have seen people say I'm a medium and try to outdo each other. Do you ever?
That's right.
Do you guys see that happen?
Yes.
Oh Lord, yeah.
Yeah, there's there's somebody that I know that I refuse to have contact with who does that very thing, and yeah, it is very detrimental what they do, and I'm like, wow, okay, that's not okay by any stretch of the imagination. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I just find that with people that claim to do that, yeah, quite often mediums will compete. Well, why does this medium pick up that, and why does this one, and why don't you? Well, because, I tell people I need something to work with, like a first name, a birth date. Because for me, it's like you walk into a room full of a whole whack of dead people. I want to talk to Dawn. Is anybody here? Is anybody named Dawn here? Well, picture that in your own mall.
Yeah. Exactly. And psychics pick up things differently. We all have different ways we receive information. And that's what a lot of people don't seem to understand. The term psychic really is all-encompassing in a lot of different ways.
It's an umbrella.
In the general population's mind. And it really, so when people come to you, it sometimes causes problems because they're like, well, you've got to get that. And I'm like, no, actually, I don't. I receive differently than the last person you talked to.
You get that too, eh?
And if they're going to somebody on a, 3-4 times a week, whoa, that's a big red flag.
Oh, yeah.
Red flag.
And this will be brought up later on the show, but what about the ones that attack you because they don't like what you said?
Oh, I haven't had anybody physically, but I've had people get mad at me because of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same here.
And of course, I just look at them and go, okay, so you don't like what I said. You want me to lie to you to make you feel better?
Yep, basically that's I do.
I think
similar to that.
I think, and I've seen it with some people. So I used to do tarot readings online for free, and I quit because when I did it for about 6 months, and it was fun. It was relaxing for me. I did 3 card spreads,
right,
and I was fairly accurate with most of them. But then I started seeing this one individual that was coming to me every day. No. I think some people are addicted. I think it's an addiction for some that they have to have that reading. Or they
either they're addicted or they're looking for a specific answer and they want you to change your reading to tell them what they want to hear.
Yeah,
well, that too. But how many people do you see going? They get the newspaper and they go straight to the astrology section to see what their horoscope says today.
Hey, I do
There's
that.
a saying that goes hand in hand with that,
But you're not.
If
going
you don't
to
like
a
your
tarot reader.
horoscope, get a different paper.
Right.
No, I do that, okay? So if I pick up a newspaper or I pick up something, I do. I am that person that flips directly to the horoscopes, but basically because I want to see what kind of crap they put in there today.
Right.
I'm like,
right.
oh, okay, cool. I'm going to be a millionaire by next week.
Maybe I should clarify something. When you're looking at the horoscope in the newspaper, okay, if it doesn't seem to fit quite right under your sun sign, look under your moon sign, your Mars, and your Neptune, as well as your ascendant. They all have a direct impact.
Yep.
Okay. So
of course, you probably have to talk to an astrologer to find out where yours is, unless you happen to have a natal chart handy.
Hey, later on in the show, can you give us a breakdown on how to read the houses and how to read your astrology?
Yeah, real, I mean, depending on how late, but the answer is yes.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, I'm no good at that.
No, neither am I. I've always been confused because you have all these people that, oh my God, the moon is in Taurus this week, so I'm going to have a really bad week. It's like, really? I don't.
The moon in Taurus, you're going to have a bad week? Now that's setting yourself up.
Oh, no, that's an example. I do. Yeah.
Well, and see, I'm a double Pisces, so it's like, oh, God, okay.
I'm Aquarius Pisces cusp.
See, I'm lucky. I've got a Grand Cross in fixed signs.
Really?
Whoa!
Yeah, you want stubborn? Meet the person that wrote the book.
Okay.
This is why when they diagnosed me dead, I walked out of the morgue and told them they were wrong.
I'm going to have to consult with my my co-host here. Do you remember how much that woman scammed her client in Mount Vernon? There was a palm reader in Mount Vernon that scammed a client for like $10,000, I think it was.
Oh, that's pocket change from the one I ran into in California.
That one, and she went to prison.
Yeah,
You don't
the
remember
one
that?
on the East Coast that I talked about went to prison too.
I don't know what happened to the one I ended up derailing.
It was a couple years ago. It was like 3 or 4 years ago. So that kind of leads into my next question. And so I'm not talking about with this question, I'm not talking about the person that charges maybe $20 for a basic read. I'm talking about the $100 a minute when I ask this question. But do you believe in making money off a born or developed gift?
100% yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I will explain that. You see, if a doctor has a natural ability where it comes to medical, and they go out...
But to clarify, I think the doctor would be a developed gift because he went to school.
There's some people that are just genuinely good at healing, and then they go to school on top of it or whatever.
So if you're talking Reiki or something like that, I agree about a medical doctor.
Yeah. No, if you're born with a natural gift, I mean, think of it this way. And this is how I rationalized it when I first got into it decades back. Was if I've got a natural gift to work with, I can use that, generate an income, and make a living, and help a lot of people, or I can continue working in the hospitality industry and spend most of my time in that industry working just to keep a roof over my head and help a lot fewer people.
Well, the way that I've always looked at that personally is think of an artist or an actor or something of that nature. Okay, that is a gift that most people are born with. Okay,
right?
They can develop it, they can work on it, and everything else. But if you go to an art show, you aren't sitting there going, "Why is this guy charging $1,000 for this piece?" You know?
Oh, I do.
Well, no, if it's a Van Gogh piece or a Da Vinci piece, sure. But yeah, no, I get it. I get it.
Yeah, so I've always thought about the natural
sell a
talents.
blank canvas. I don't understand it, but do I agree that you should be able to make a living at it if it's a natural gift? Absolutely. Do I believe that you should be charging $1,500 an hour? No.
Right.
Now, that said, I was personally paid at one point $2,500 an hour for the work I did. But that was their choice. I didn't charge them that.
Okay. What do you think, Nikki?
I don't have a problem with people charging. I mean, to me, it's... okay.
It's a gray area. I get that.
It's a touchy subject for a lot of people. I don't charge. I should. I've been consistently told I should. I don't charge, mostly because a lot of the people that come to me, they don't have the money to be able to really pay for it. I mean, even $10, $20 a time, it's just not there. And so, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But
so
if I went to make a living at it, I would be doing something like what... well, there's 3 specific psychics that come to my mind right now that are very good at it and have done the books and have done the shows and have done TV and blah, blah, blah. So they're very good at it. But they create it as a business, and that's what you have to do. There's a cut and dry fine line between where you have... I don't know. There's a lot of things for me that I would have to cut off in my daily life if I did it as a business, full on to make a living at it is what I mean.
So to stay in middle ground, you would be okay with taking donations?
Yeah, I would be fine with taking donations.
There you go.
I don't have a problem with that. Matter of fact, I have people that have paid me in gifts. I mean, I've been gifted a number of different things over the years, and you know, and one person even calls it in trade, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a barter setup.
In trade. Yeah, it's exactly that. It's a barter. So, you know, whatever they can do, and if they're not able to, that's fine. It just depends. But,
Well, that's why I tell people, if you're not charging, don't. You know, if you're not comfortable with it, don't. For me, it works. But
yeah, see, if I knew what to charge for my abilities, because of the kind of vast I don't just do psychic medium work. There's a lot of things that I do. What do you charge for something like that? I mean,
I found an easy way to solve that, Nikki.
What's that?
When you're starting out, charge $60 an hour, $1 a minute, regardless of the tool,
Oh, how interesting.
because it's still the same ability.
Yeah.
It's still your time they're paying for. Your time, your
That's
insight.
true.
And let's face it, psychic work is a combination of instinct, of intuition, of life experience.
There's a time where I've done readings where it's 30 minutes and that's it. That's all the information the other side is willing to put in. And then there are times where I've done 4-hour read. It's supposed to be a 2-hour reading, turns into a 4-hour reading, and I'm like, okay, that's when I cut the time off. I'm like, nope, 4 hours, that's my max. We're done. We'll have to come back and get the rest of the information on a different time, because 4 hours is a long time, especially with the amount of information that comes through. I mean, it could be a past life that is popping up that they're having issues with, or, I mean, there's so many different things. Or for that matter, it could be a spirit that's causing them very nasty issues. So, yeah, I mean, there's so many different levels to it.
See, I like those ones.
Oh, the
ones where the spirit is causing nasty problems. I get a kick out of them.
I know exactly how to deal with them. They don't like me. I've got quite the reputation on the other side. They're like, don't mess with Nikki. And I'm like, no, don't mess with me, because there are certain things, and there's laws and rules, I don't know what else to call them, that are on the other side. Things that these spirits, they're not supposed to do.
Oh, yeah, they got more rules than we do.
No kidding. Oh, my word. I found that out last year. I was like, wait a minute. And then you have to be very specific. You can't be vague with a hierarchy, or even with Source or Jesus or any of the others. You cannot. They get very specific. And if you ask a vague question, you're going to get a vague answer real fast.
And it probably won't be what you're looking for.
No, exactly.
So I want to dig a little more into this. Where do you draw the line between, how do you know if someone's scamming you or if someone's making a living off doing readings?
Well, one of the big ones from my end is if you're sitting down with somebody you've never dealt with before,
right,
and they're asking you a whole pile of questions before they say a word,
yeah,
you're in trouble.
Big trouble.
Okay.
I start off with a very simple, I need your first name and your birth date. Right. Of the querent, the person that's asking the questions.
Mm-hmm.
I usually sorry, go ahead.
I don't care whether it's their legal first name or whether it's what people call them.
Exactly. Or what they're calling themselves in other chats. I usually go with a name that they're mostly known by, and if I can, a picture. That would be most useful, because then I can receive energy. I can I'll ask the other side different questions, and sometimes it'll resonate, sometimes it won't with them. But then I get people that where it hasn't resonated, they'll come back to me later on and go, yeah, actually, I now understand what you're talking about. I'm like, oh,
You
okay.
too, eh?
Yeah, I so I get that kind of stuff, or it'll, I'll get kind of repeat customers, so to speak. Clients, I suppose, is what you call
The one mistake that people make, though, that the querent makes, is, I don't want to tell you anything. You've got to understand, if you're going to an actual functional psychic, it's a cooperative effort.
Yes.
If you don't give them anything to work with, they're going to come back. They're not going to know they're not on track.
Yeah.
So that's what would be called a cold reading anyway.
Well, a cold reading isn't the problem. Okay, cold readings can be done. The problem comes when they won't say, like the one question I ask consistently through a reading, especially through a cold one, is they'll say something, look at the person and go, does this make sense? If they say yes, I'm good to go. Because I don't have to understand what I'm talking about.
Exactly. I've had readings where I haven't understood over half of it. And I'm like asking the person, does this make sense to you? Do you understand what this is? They're like, oh, yes. And I'm like, okay, as long as it makes sense to you and you know what this is about. Because a lot of times I'll be putting out this information and thinking in my head going, that doesn't sound right to me. But the other side is telling me, yeah, it's correct. To just tell them blah, 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 and I'll tell them whatever the information is. And if I don't get feedback, that's the other thing, is a psychic needs feedback from the person. They have to know if they're even remotely on the right track, because a lot of times you can have anywhere up to 6 different 2 to 6 different spirits coming through, and it may not necessarily be all of them for that one person. It may be related to that one person, but they don't know it yet.
Yeah, and that can be a real pain in the neck. I mean, I remember one case where I was picking up gearboxes, like sprockets and what have you, in the middle of a barn, which made no sense to me at all. But I laid it out and I said, does this make any sense to you? And she goes, absolutely. I said, great, because I'm not a mechanic, but I do know gearboxes don't belong in barns.
Not usually.
Well, that's like I had, okay, no name dropping. I just got told no name. I had somebody very famous in the scientific community, like really famous. And I was talking to a living human who I said, okay, I just had so-and-so come through and they're telling me, and I'm spewing out this information. I'm like, I don't know what that bleepity bleep this is. Are you kidding? I talked to the person. I said, okay, do you have any idea what I just said? They're like, oh yeah, it makes complete sense. I went, oh my God, thank God. Because I had no idea about this kind of scientific stuff. It was way beyond what I understood. Way beyond.
The other thing you watch for where it comes to somebody trying to scam you is they will try and convince you they're right.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, and I just got told, so Joe may be on the 3rd hour if he gets a second wind, but he's been getting ready to evacuate due to the fires in California. He's not in any danger right now, but now he's exhausted from packing his truck. So if he gets
understandable.
If he gets a second wind, he might come on the 3rd hour.
Okay.
Moving on, how do you feel a psychic would enhance a paranormal team? Now we're going to start shifting gears here.
Well, let's start with the fact that it basically is our back doorstep.
Yep. But they also need to keep their mouth shut unless okay, this is just me. I've not done a professional, what I classify as a professional run through with a paranormal team. I've always done things on my own. Not deliberately. It always ends up where there's something that shows up in a building, or I touch a building and all this stuff starts happening.
Don't you love them?
Oh, those are really fantastic. But in my opinion, you don't want a psychic. If you're on a team, I wouldn't want to be mouthing every little thing that I'm seeing or feeling. I mean, there are certain things that are paramount to the investigation. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, you have to have a clear idea.
Exactly, but there are little things that don't necessarily mean a hill of beans.
Well, that's where you and I will disagree.
Oh, okay.
Because those tiny little subtleties that we can pick up, that technology won't pick up,
No, now I agree with that.
okay, can mean all the difference in the world.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I want to add to that. I think a psychic is most beneficial on a team, and this is where the cold reading comes in. You don't give your psychic, if they're on your team, any details about the case.
Correct.
They walk in, they hear a name,
Blind.
and that's how you vet them, though. If your psychic comes out of the home or the business and can give you a name that coincides with the history or what the clients told you, that's where the cold reading proves.
Well, here's where I'd run into a problem. I have a problem remembering whose name I'm talking to.
Nope.
It's very seldom I pick up actually names from the people on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Right.
That's why
I'll
I write
get
everything
images.
down. Sorry.
But the trick that I find is if you're taking a psychic in with you, two things. You've got to let them know what they're going in looking for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you're just going in and going, I just want to know what's going on in the building, there is so much, and that's where Nikki's original statement, there's so much going on.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I was given, like, I've walked into situations where, like, I've worked with the police before at their request, not because I volunteered it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I find if you don't give them something to work with, like, you know, we're looking for, there's a real angry entity here. Never mind whether it's male, female, and you don't worry about the name. But if you're not telling us it's angry, we'll pick up half a dozen kids in there that they're just there because they're there.
Right.
They're there because they're frightened of the
evil entity.
Yeah, exactly, and they're hiding. Yeah.
I think the perfect case is where your science, which would be not. We'll get into the science side here shortly, but it's not science. It's playing with electronic toys. But
science.
If your electronics or your gear confirms what the psychic is saying, I think is where you have a complete balance in a case.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. Yeah.
See, the big problem I have with electronics myself is sometimes the electronics won't work.
Mm-hmm.
Which really
Yeah,
makes it fun.
because as psychics, we have a tendency to run a specific kind of energy and have a tendency to screw with the electronics. So, you know,
And this
it
is
makes
true.
things even more interesting.
This is absolutely true. So
But
you
they're
have me.
absolutely a benefit.
Yeah.
I think psychics have been used a lot more in the last few years as far as working with paranormal teams. But, you know, prior to a few years ago, you had all these teams that we do it in the name of science. Well, most of them haven't even looked at science or the scientific theory since
Real
the fourth
science.
grade.
Most
they're
of
not-
them can't spell the word science.
No. So they're not doing it in the name of science. They're playing with toys.
Yeah.
You know, so don't say you're investigating the paranormal for science, because no. But these are the same people that, oh my God, no, you can't use a psychic because that's fringe science. Well, yeah. To me, and we did it for years, you need a balance with a psychic or a medium, and we're going to get into the difference between psychics, mediums, and empaths probably in the second hour. But, you know, and I wanted to hear your guys' opinion, and that's why I asked the question. How do you feel, you know, the benefit of a psychic on and whether it's a Bigfoot case, a UFO sighting? Is there a benefit with using a psychic in a UFO sighting case?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it
especially
depends on
if
the
they're
psychic.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, that's true, and what they, how they receive. I mean, like I said, every single psychic is different or similar in the ways that they receive. If they're different, they are going to pick up things very differently than, say, another psychic that comes in later.
I've always thought of it like this. Just because somebody is really, really, really good at, let's say, football, doesn't mean that you want them on your golf team. You know, like...
No, you really don't. They're not allowed to do that. It's like, don't put a golfer in a baseball, on a baseball diamond.
Right.
So if that isn't their forte, if they've never dealt with that, if they don't know how to communicate with that, and they've never had that, then there is no point on that particular type of team.
Well, the other side to that is how well are they capable or managing their protection levels, because just because one psychic is really, really good, are they also really good at protection? Because if you're out in the fields or the forests, whatever, and you're dealing with that kind of paranormal, whether it's the Fae, whether it's Bigfoot as a quote-unquote cryptid, whether it's UFOs, you're dealing with a whole different genre of subject matters. I mean, you're just, and there's different protection levels that you have to have, and you really, really need to be good at the subject matter that you're going in to investigate.
And sad to say, if you're taking a psychic on a investigation with you into a field like that, especially when you're dealing with off-worlders or the ancient races, yes, make certain they're good at defense. But understand there are many times when they better be really hands-on where it comes to offense.
Bingo. Kind of where I was going with that. Glad you were more specific with it. Thank you.
I want to bring up Jennifer's comment here too, because it really ties in. One thing too is mediums and what some call psychics. Two are also used for missing persons cases and etc. It's not all about what spirit is coming through, and I agree by disagree, because if you're on a missing persons case and that person's passed on, your psychic is potentially going to communicate with that missing person spirit. Or the family members of that person that's missing may come through to tell you where they are.
But see, again, it depends on what your level and your field is. Because everybody, as soon as somebody says, oh, I'm a psychic, they're like, oh, tell me my future then.
Yeah.
Well, that's not everybody. That's not what
psychic is a
everybody can do.
catch-all.
That's exactly. So
Exactly, it is a catch-all.
that's what I'm saying, is that I believe that on specific cases, okay, so this person is really good with missing people. Cool. So that's what they do. This person is really good at talking to off-worlders. So that's where they should go. You know, different things like that. Like, it's not a...
They need to be up front with the team they're going to be
thing.
working with.
And it's not that one person can't be psychic and have a connection with something, but have absolutely no connection with something else.
Right. And that's where communication is important with the team of what their capabilities are.
And that's why I said if you're going into some sort of a exam or some sort of a research run, you've got to let the psychic know what you're going after. Because you don't want a psychic that is used to dealing with animals and what have you, trying to deal with an aggressive demon.
True.
Right?
Actually, personally, I do, but that's because I'm a little twisted.
Yeah, well, I've worked with aggressive demons, so...
That's not a demon, it's really a bull spirit. Go get it. Yeah, no. Yeah, you said you work with animals. Go get the bull. Take it by the horns. I want to bring up something, and I want to hear your opinion. I think the term empath gets overused. Somebody says, I'm an empath. Well, it goes a little deeper than just being able to read someone's, they look sad, so I can feel your sadness. Does not an empath actually feel the emotion of the other person, not just look at them and say, you look sad? I'm an empath, I can feel it.
Not
I'll let you
always.
take that one first, Nick.
Well, yeah, an empath, kind of an interesting subject. An empath can be, okay, what you just described, Eric, to me is somebody who is really good at reading body language.
Right.
Okay, there's a big difference between being empathic and being able to read body language. Empathic is walking into a room and you can kind of, well, you don't have to look at anybody, but you can feel what the other people are feeling in the room. Mm-hmm. It makes it really interesting, and you can use, okay, why are you doing that? Sorry, I've got somebody. All right. Stop it. Sorry, guys. I got somebody who's showing me using your body as a compass to somebody who is emotionally distraught. I do not know why you're doing that. You need to back off. They're using their body as the empath, using their body as a compass to somebody who is in a room. Actually, I'm being shown a ballroom. That's beside the point. And going to a person who is emotionally distraught.
That's the other thing to keep in mind is a true empath physically reacts to the emotion. Yeah. They may not show it, but they themselves will physically react to whatever they're picking up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they'll feel it in spades. I mean, hardcore in some people. And a lot of people that don't even recognize that they're empathic, they start having problems emotionally because of it. And they start putting out behavior because of their emotional upset. And so basically they're taking on everybody's energy, everybody's emotions, and they don't know how to put a barrier between themselves and other people.
Well,
that's why many kids don't like crowds.
Not only that, but what I've noticed with empaths, like true empaths, is they're like a, oh God, what is that thing? Like a lightning rod, okay? Mm-hmm. And
oh God, yeah.
They will be the person that, for no reason, you'll go over to and tell them your sob story or tell them your life. And you're like, there was no reason for me to have done that. I don't do that. Mm. But they draw people to them as well.
Yeah.
Like a magnet.
Yes. Yeah.
Yep.
Ultimately, yeah.
I've had more people than I can count do that. I'll be in a grocery store or whatever store, and somebody will be in, I'm being shown a bookstore at this second because there was an incident with a lady in a bookstore who was looking at books, and I was looking at books, and she came up to me out of the blue and started talking to me, and I'm like, okay.
I had something like that. I had my back to the door. I'm looking at the bookshelf, and I felt somebody come through the door behind me. I went, "Oh, you got to be so and so," and he stops cold. He goes, "Yeah, but you didn't even turn around." I said, "I didn't know I was supposed to."
Yeah, I've been there, done that. Long time.
But no, they are. Empaths tend to physically react. The thing that most people don't realize is many true empaths can alter the energy in a room by simply walking into it because they broadcast as quick as they pick up.
Now, do you consider empathy as a part of the psychic umbrella?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
It is a more refined form of clairsentience. Clairsentience is basically that basic sixth sense that you feel something's a little off. Empathy is a refined form that says this emotion is what is off. And then you feed back on and figure out what's causing the emotion.
Well, you get into some of the psychology of it, and you kind of use that as well. A lot of empaths start learning more about psychology because they're simply trying to learn how to understand what is happening to them.
Trying to explain, and of course you learn it so you can explain to other people what's happening to them.
Yep, exactly.
You know, why did I do that? Well, because it seemed like the thing to do at the time, but here's the reason. You know.
So, do either of you practice empathy?
Practice? I live with it.
Yeah.
Why do you think I became reclusive?
Yeah, okay, I'm going to tell you. Yeah, no, that goes into telepath. Okay, never mind. Yeah, I do the same thing.
So
I
actually,
do the same thing. I've had it since childhood, so, birth, childhood. So.
okay, we're going to go ahead and take our first break tonight. And when we come back, we are going to go into the different forms of psychic ability, the clairs, the difference between a sensitive, a psychic, and a psychic medium. We already kind of hit... Huh?
This is one of, if you're going to go into the Claires, what about the Robertas?
Oh, them too. And the Karens, too. But anyway, when we come back, we'll go into the clairs and the different forms of psychic abilities. I just break them all down.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
You break, you're going down.
with your host, Eric Cooper.
And welcome back to S4 as we are talking all things psychic in the paranormal tonight. And you know, during the break, Jennifer was asking, actually bringing up a good point in the chat room that I wanted to bring up. And we actually did a paper on this in Forest Moon Paranormal. For those that don't know, S4 is the voice of Forest Moon Paranormal, which is still an active group on Facebook. But, you know, we did a paper on children in the paranormal here a few years ago on, you know, when does a child have an overactive imagination versus a paranormal event? And so I want to bring that up to you guys. So you're 5 years old, 8 years old, you know, pick your age, and you're seeing this old woman that comes into your room, or you're hearing voices, or, you know, and you go to your parents with this, and they just chalk it up as an overactive imagination, but you're actually seeing your grandma. Or you have a kid who comes to you and they're talking about, you know, I keep seeing this old woman, or I'm hearing these voices. What do you do? So how did you guys break it to your parents, what you were seeing and that you were psychic, and what was their response, and what's your recommendation to parents or kids? It's kind of a twofold question on how to break it.
In my case, it was real simple. See, at 5 years old, I'd been diagnosed dead and shipped off to the morgue. I walked out of the morgue and up to Dad, and I heard the doctor tell Mom and Dad, "I'm sorry, we lost him." I walked up to Mom and Dad, and I tugged on Dad's shoulder, and I said, or on Dad's cuff, I'm like, "Who'd you lose?" You know, it kind of brought it to light that there was something a little off kilter.
Mm-hmm.
That, and when I wanted to pay the mashed potatoes at the other end of the dining room table, I sailed that thing the length of a 6. I've still got the table, but I yanked a full bowl of mashed potatoes from one end of the table to the other. Kind of made it a little. It wasn't subtle, but it did get the point across.
I never experienced anything quite like that. I trying to remember how old I was. I think it was around 6. Talking to my grandmother, and 5, 6 years old, something like that. And she told me to be quiet. So my grandmother was raised in a family to where you did not talk about gifts or abilities of any kind. She told me flat out, "You will be called crazy. We keep that a secret. We don't talk about that, Nicole." And so it wasn't until... and my mom got a taste of what she and her best friend, when we were on the East Coast, got a real good taste of what I was seeing, because I was describing it. I was going, "Mom, why is there a horse and carriage coming down the street at us on the other side of the street, and then there's a car going right through?" And I'm like, "Hello." It made no sense to me. I was 10 years old at the time. It made absolutely no sense to me. And she and her best friend, Mom was driving, and her best friend was in the front passenger seat. They just kind of looked at each other, and their eyes got really big. And then I started describing when we were at the Liberty Bell. We went to go see the Liberty Bell, and I touched the Liberty Bell, at the time when you could actually do that. Got into trouble for it, but touched the Liberty Bell and was instantly, my surroundings literally disappeared, and I saw, I don't know what else to call it, but a courtyard and grass and women dressed in what I thought were period costumes. And I described this to my mom, and she just went, "Oh!" And it was never talked about. And so when I was, it was after I had my son. So sometime in the late 1990s, early 2000s is when I actually came out and told Mom about different things that I was picking up. And we're sitting in the car, and I'll never forget it. We're sitting in the car, and out comes, I didn't know you had those kind of ability. I'm like, really?
Yeah. See, I was basically told, keep it quiet. Don't let people know what you do. Unfortunately, I didn't learn that lesson very well.
Yeah, I learned it the hard way. I mean, my grandmother and I were very close, and she just, if I ever saw anything, she was like, no, we don't talk about those, Nicole. I don't want you to talk about that again. And it made a major impact on my life. I mean, I didn't talk about it again until I was 10 years old. And, before that, I had seen spirits. But after my grandmother said, we don't talk about that, I just never talked about it.
See, one thing I will encourage people to do, if they've got a child that comes up and starts talking to them and starts describing things, don't make the mistake of just categorically going, no, it's just your imagination.
Exactly.
Look into it.
Yeah.
I mean, Nikki and I have an advantage. If my son comes and says something real weird, I feel something in the room. Well, half a sec, I'll go take a peek.
Mm-hmm.
And if there's something there, I'll let him know. And if there isn't, I'll tell him, not sure what you were picking up, but it's not there now.
Well, and see, with my son, he was always telling me when his dad was going to call on the phone before the phone would actually ring, anywhere from minutes to seconds. And he's like, Daddy's calling. And I'm like, what? And I was like, oh, okay. And within a few minutes or a few seconds, the phone would ring, and guess who it was? Oh, I'm on my way home, And so, and my son would talk about different things. And so I encouraged it. And then my mother got involved, and I got pissed. So that's a different story.
Yeah, that takes it down a whole different road.
Yeah, that's a whole different rabbit hole. But the point is that if you've got a kid that is experiencing different things, talking about some unusual things, start keeping a journal. Get a spiral note binder and start keeping track of what they're talking about. Then you can check off what's really imaginary versus what they're describing. Get them on. Everybody's got a phone with a camera. Get them on videotape. Old terminology. Sorry. Get them on video, and start recording what they're talking about, and then save those. Put those on a flash drive. Transfer them from the computer onto a flash drive. And then go back through them. You will find some things very fascinating about what your child is talking about. Encourage them to talk about things more. Don't shut them down.
There's a neat little side effect to that. You get them talking about the really weird stuff, you'll find they open about the not so weird stuff.
Exactly.
This is true.
See, I've always been a strong believer in encouraging your kids to everything. That you are who you are, and I don't see a reason to have to come out with anything, because you are who you are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And if you tell me that you are this or you are that or anything, and you want to tell me that, that's up to you. But if you don't, that's up to you as well.
Yeah, I've had that conversation with my son too when he was real little. He's now 29. So
yeah, he's not quite so little anymore.
No, he's taller than me by a long shot.
Okay, Nikki, that's not setting the bar high.
No, I'm short. Keith and I have met. And he knows I'm short. So, no, my son is 6 foot or 6'1", something like that. So, yeah, he's a tall, big guy. Big, broad shoulders like my dad. So, but yeah, he doesn't talk about his abilities anymore. And I have issue with that, but that's his That's his life, and that's what he's choosing right now. And I get that. I understand that. But when you've got kids that are talking about specific things, they may not remember. The reason why you want to record some of this, they may not remember what they're going to say or what they have said a number of years from now. And there's somebody that I automatically think of with that. She described something with one of her kids, and the kid now 2 years later doesn't remember talking about it. Mm-hmm. But it was really fascinating, and it was about ETs, and it was about their experiences, and the kid doesn't remember anymore. And I'm like, wow.
That's the other thing that you got to look at with the children. Is if they're afraid of the closet, if they can't sleep because the closet door is open, or they can't get onto the bed because there's something under the bed, the odds are they're probably feeling something. Now, they may be dealing with something they heard, but don't just write it off.
I had a little girl that was like a granddaughter to me, and she would come up to me, and her mom would privately take me aside before I'd see the kids, and she'd say, you know, her daughter was experiencing bedwetting at night, or experiencing not being able to sleep, or being afraid to sleep. And the little girl would come up to me going, Nikki, 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 I love you. And I'd ask her a question. Oh, that. And then she would tell me all about it. And I'd go, okay. Well, you need to know that you can come to me at any time to talk about any of this, because her mom didn't understand how to deal with it. So she would refer to me, which was fine. And it wasn't until, wasn't last year, 2019, I think it was, this little girl in Astral comes screaming bloody murder to me. And the next thing I hear is my deceased friend, who's retired military, going, she's coming to you, Nikki. And I'm like, yeah, I got that. And I got it was because of her. I felt the biggest, hardest astral hug that I've ever had in my entire life on my physical body. She wouldn't let go of me. And this little girl was being terrified by a form of evil that I can't even, all I know is that these things exist, and it was feeding on children's fear. And she was able to see it and feel it and knew that it was not okay. And that's why she was having problems. Needless to say, it's no longer living. I had other side permission to deal with it, and I did. And my friend who was living on the other side, he protected her physical body while I took care of this thing, and while she was glued to my body because she wouldn't let me go. So and ever since then, she doesn't have a problem sleeping, at least as far as I know anymore. So kids can pick up and sense these things. They just don't know how to deal with it.
They also don't know how to articulate it, and this is why you don't shut them down.
I was about to say it, a lot of times they probably don't know how to explain it.
She didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
She just knew it was big and this black glob type thing, and it was terrifying to her. Well, it was feeding on her fear, and that's what this thing was, I don't want to say designed to do, but that's what it was doing. And there are numbers, different kinds of them. Mm-hmm. So.
And you know, for a lot of them, fear is food. For lack of a better explanation.
Ironically enough, fear isn't the only emotion that is food.
Right.
But when you're dealing with the kids, it really boils down to encouraging them to talk about it. Don't just shut it down. Don't look at them and go, oh, that's a wonderful imagination. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it is. The other thing that I recommend, and it works like a charm for some kids, give them a sheet of paper and a box of crayons or a box of pencil crayons and say, can you draw what you're looking at?
Yeah, she used to draw a big black blob. I'm like, okay. And that's exactly what it looked like. I mean, it morphed, but that's beside the point. It morphed into other shapes. But her mom is the one that was telling me, look, this is what's happening with the sleeping. And if she hadn't have been aware, she wouldn't have known really what was going on with her kid. She would have thought it was something else. And there are paranormal things that like to deal with kids, and that's not okay in my book.
Well, see, and that's just it. If the children that don't have the tools, I learned the hard way. And this is why I've told people I am the last person you want to set as an example. Because when I started dealing with the negative ones, I learned very quickly that fear was not useful. On this world, in the physical world, I'm very much a pacifist, right? I just don't fight. On the metaphysical world, whole different ballgame altogether.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't necessarily fight in the physical world, but the metaphysical world, I'm like, you don't mess with me. I'll kick ass and I'll take people down, or entities or whatever down, and usually with the permissions of the hierarchies.
You get permission? I always found it was easier to apologize.
No, I usually, 9 times out of 10, they're like, yeah, go for it. And if they don't say, yeah, go for it, they're like, you can do this, but I want him. And I'm like, really? What are you going to do to him? Tell me. And they tell me exactly what they're going to do to him. And I'm like, my eyeballs get huge, practically popping out of the body, going, oh, my
I've been
God,
told I've got authority issues. But no, children on the whole, one thing you'll find if you dismiss the things that they're sensing or they're dealing with, you'll find the child will start to lash out in physical form.
Correct.
It's not because of the fact that they're trying to be bad kids. It's because you won't listen to the things that they're seeing as normal that they can't cope with. So they're going to something that will get your attention.
Yeah. And then you're dealing with psychologists and other issues. And, I mean, there are very real psychological issues, but there are also paranormal issues that affect kids. And
we will be getting into that a little bit later on, actually.
We have to be aware. We have to be aware. And that's the thing. Don't shut your kids.
We're shifting gears now. What types of psychic abilities are there? And let's go into the clairs.
You want me to read the list?
Yep.
Okay. Clairvoyance, which is clear seeing. Claircognizance, clear knowing. Clairaudience, clear hearing. Clairempathy, which is clear emotional feeling. Clairgustance, which is clear tasting. That's an always fun one. Clairsentience, which is clear physical feeling, which is different than emotional. Clairtangency, which is clear touching, which is also different than physical feeling. And okay, you guys can say this word better than I can. Clairsalence. Is that the right way to pronounce it?
Salence.
Which is clear smelling.
So,
and I've got all of
so explain that one. That one seems kind of weird to me. So not to sound stupid, but you walk into a house. You walk into a house and you can psychically smell a spirit.
No,
yes.
It's more like the things around them. Like you've said this a million times, where you walk in and you smell cigar smoke. You walk in and you smell cookies baking. You walk in and you smell... But none of this stuff is actually happening. It's...
Okay. So,
an impression of it.
With what happens with me, with my clear smelling, is it's usually the person's body scent. That
perfume.
could be body... It could be their body.
No, not perfume.
No,
their actual body
We're talking the actual body, the scent that a body has.
Yes.
B.O.
No, like everybody smells different.
Wait a minute.
Everybody smells different.
Wait a minute. Every human body has a specific scent.
Okay.
It's
Not
not
just
human
necessarily.
bodies.
It's not
Not just
every.
human.
No, not human.
No.
Not just human.
Every body
Every-
has a difference in it.
Every living body has a different smell to them. Okay, what you're dealing with is not necessarily BO. You're dealing with, like a human, their BO comes from their armpits. If you're a woman, it's also underneath the breasts, and the guys, it's under the balls. I mean, pardon me, but there we are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just how it is. But it also comes from the neck and the inner of the arms, the elbows, the knees, that kind of thing, and the feet. Okay, so that all said, you're also dealing with, you have that sense of smell. You also have a sense of smell of what kind of cologne they may have worn. So you've got a number of factors going on all at the same time. So I could have a spirit that comes to me and I will smell their body. I will smell their deodorant or their cologne. Or if it's a woman, it'll be their perfume or their body spray.
See,
So it's all encompassing.
there's something else you got to remember. All color has a different scent.
That's true.
So does all sound.
I never used to believe that until a number of years ago. But yes, that's true. There is a certain scent on skin. And it sounds
You're
really
talking-
crazy
okay.
because it sounds more like BO, but it's not BO.
No,
it's
I would put it as essence. The person's essence.
Yes.
You are
That's
smelling
good.
that.
That's a good word for it.
That's a much better word for it, yeah. So if my grandfather shows up, I'm not going to say every single thing that I smell with him, but he has a boating sense of smell to me. He used to do a lot of boating, a lot of sailing with when he was younger, in his younger days. And so when he's around me, I have a sense of not only his physical presence, but the sense of when he was boating. So it could be salt water, it could be...
What you got to understand is it's not just people that used to be living that have a scent.
Yeah, Sasquatch.
Right.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Animals.
it's also like every plant has a scent. Every different stone, crystal has a scent.
Yes, it does.
And they don't just smell like, that smells like citrine. They have a very personalized scent.
Rocks have a very lava rocks. I was on the Washington Peninsula 2019, and wow, I walked up to this wall of boulders, and I was like, why am I walking up to... I'm looking at this wall of boulders, I'm going, okay, I'm being drawn here. I'm not usually drawn to rocks, big boulders. That's not normal for me. And I walked up and I went, oh, that's a lava rock. What the heck are you doing on this gigantic mound of rocks? And I was drawn to it, and it had a very different smell to it than the regular, I don't know what else to call them, the regular stone. I mean, if Joe were here, he would know what I was talking about, because I don't know what these are called. But the giant stone that was on top of them was a lava stone. How I knew that, I mean, I put my hands up on it, and I went, whoa, you're not ordinary. And I went, how the heck did you get here? But it was lava stone. And I'm like, wow, okay.
See, the funny thing is that when you're dealing with the senses, people on the whole seem to try and separate sense of smell from the other senses, and the reality is every smell has a sound, a touch, it has an appearance, and it has a feel.
Mm-hmm.
The best way that I've seen to describe it is it's just like a fingerprint. Every single living everything, it's completely different for each of them.
Absolutely.
Yes, and it's completely different than, say, if I were tracking somebody who came here in astral, and I were tracking them back. That's a signature.
Mm-hmm.
That's an energy. Yeah, that's an energy signature versus a scent of
No,
smell.
the reason I said that's different is because for me, I mean, if I actually look at what I'm looking at the way the world looks to me, I'm looking at any energy tracks that go from literally a molecular energy track. It's great going down to the skateboard park and watching the people skate, because I can see the echo marks behind them and the shockwave in front of them.
Okay, guys, so Jennifer wants to know what your favorite crystals are.
Vulcans.
Vulcan?
Sorry.
That's Star Trek.
No. Vulcans are actually crystalline entities from Sol 1.
Uh-huh. Which is why I was laughing, because I knew it was going to hit Star Trek.
Uh-huh.
Oh, so did I. But, no, in all fairness, I personally I'm mostly drawn to Moldavite.
Okay.
Oh, really? See, I'm drawn to rose quartz, not lavender. Sorry, I have brain fart. That was weird. Amethyst, rose quartz, amethyst, and labradorite.
Yeah, and
I
if you
can't
combine the two,
figure
you
out
get
the
lamethyst.
Yeah, exactly.
What about you, Eric?
Black tourmaline.
Cole? Tiger's eye.
I can't.
You know how bad I want to say meth right now?
Well, every crystal, every stone, gemstone has a specific resonance and a specific energy. Energy and resonance to me are two different things when it comes to gemstones. Some people classify it as the same thing. I don't, because of how I can pick up one stone. They've got a different energy to them. And actually, you can... Okay, they're really going to sound crazy, but you can actually talk to them and get information. Well, you and I know that, but other people may not. So,
Sorry about that.
that's quite all right. He's got a huge smile on his face, guys. So, anyway, yeah, you could actually get information back from them. I mean, I was on this very large piece of property, and one of the original stones from, I just got told to not say where it's from. Okay, so
You
one
never
of these
give
large
locations or names.
Do it anyway. Come on.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to do that.
Remember that thing about do unto others?
This crystal was a smoky quartz crystal, and it actually spoke to me. And it's like 3.5 feet tall and about 4 feet around, something like that.
Until you get the ones that get up and walk away.
Yeah, well, I used to be in Atlantis working with the spherical crystals that's it. So, I mean, I have almost every lifetime I've always had crystals in my life for one reason or another, and now I understand why. But the point is that you can talk to them. They can talk back to you, which
There's
is
something even better that you can do with them.
They hold energy. But
There's a neat little thing with them. The reason that crystals are so good for computers is you can take any crystal, any stone, and reprogram it to do something else.
correct.
You can get granite to work like quartz. You know, if you, and this is why, it's like, I've got the schematics. I haven't got the crystals pulled together, but I've got the schematics in my head. I haven't drawn it out yet for an actual crystal computer, and they are so much more data compact than what the electronic ones are.
Okay.
Now that's pretty fascinating.
I've got to move along here. What's the difference between a sensitive, a psychic, and a psychic medium?
What do
Spelling?
you call yourself? What you call yourself?
No, is there? So a sensitive is to me is someone that has that can feel energies, that can feel. I don't know. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, to me, a sensitive is quite literally any one of the so-called psychic abilities
Okay.
are based in somebody that is sensitive to them. A psychic is the term that was hung on these people and on charlatans for the carnies, which is why I don't like the term myself anymore.
Okay.
Okay, and when you're talking about a psychic medium, well, frankly, a medium is the sensitive, or if you want to use the term psychic, that picks up on the dead people.
Yep.
But
What would you prefer to be called, Keith?
I like Keith or Ronald, but
Alright.
I literally bill myself as a spiritual guide.
Okay.
there you go. Perfect. So does tarot, astrology, and using a pendulum or dowsing rod play into the psychic fields?
They're focal tools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We'll just classify them as tools, yes.
And that actually goes into Jennifer's question. What is your favorite tarot deck or angel deck? For me,
Well,
it's
the one I'm most familiar with, I don't know if I'd call it my favorite, but the one I use the most is the Rider deck.
Right, that's common. That's a common deck for many readers. I use the Enchanted. The Enchanted is very detailed, very specific. What about you, Nikki?
Well, I'm still learning regarding the tarot. I use oracle decks more than I do tarot.
Okay.
And I have one that's all about fairies, and I dearly love it. I was drawn to a angel tarot deck, a fairy tarot deck, and a fairy oracle deck. And wow.
Out of curiosity, is the fairy deck you use from Kismet Stepanich?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay.
1 second.
You know, I can honestly say I have never
Find out
once
real
in my
quick.
life even touched a tarot deck.
You have to use the energies that go through you to pull the proper cards.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I'm just
that's-
saying I've never used one. I've never touched one.
Oh, you've
I've
never used one.
owned
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, that's the silly thing about it that most people don't get. If people have this thing, you've got to be given a tarot deck for it to work. No, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
But I am a very firm believer that once you get the tarot deck, take whatever book came with it and toss it out. Because the problem with the books is the good ones will tell you 15 to 20 different definitions.
Right.
Yep.
Which is great, except one small little detail. Every single card on the deck, and I can only give you an approximation, and this will change within the next minute, but there are roughly 7.5 billion definitions per card.
Good God, how'd you find that out?
Because they feed off the person you're doing the reading for.
So wouldn't there be an
Oh,
infinite
yeah, that
number
makes
of definitions for each card then?
Wouldn't there be a witch?
An infinite number of definitions for each card, because if it's just what you're
Technically, yes.
feeding.
I'm just referring to the humans.
Okay.
I mean, you take the other races in and they're just beyond number. But that's why you don't read just right side up. People say, oh, you only read right side up. It gives you all the information. Well, no, it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like going to a book and going, I'm only going to read every other page.
Yeah. I usually have the, when it comes to tarot, when it comes to any of the cards, I usually have the other side going, okay, guys, what is this person supposed to learn? And how many shuffles do you want me doing? Because this is you guys, this ain't me.
Okay.
I'm just doing the physical. I'm just doing the physical work. And Eric, you had asked me which ones I use. I use Karen Kay, and the artist is Ginger Kelly.
Okay.
So, sorry.
Go ahead. Bradley Valentine is the one for the tarot cards, the 2 different tarot cards that I use.
Okay.
Okay, so I just have to ask out of curiosity, what is your favorite tool to use? What do you use most often?
I can't say what I specifically use most often, but because it'll get me into trouble. But most of the time, I'm also using what the hell is this thing around my neck? Crystals.
Okay.
I was going to say, if you came out with news, I'd be impressed.
We were just talking about it. I use all different kinds of gemstones. But I have a real specific method of focusing. And I also... I can't say that either. Okay. Anyhow, so there are a number of different tools that psychics use. And mine are pretty common in some ways, and a couple of that are not common. And I got told to shut my mouth, and I'm like, okay.
All right.
See, I personally, I call it clairsentience. Now, you used a different name for it, the clear knowing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I forget what term you used. I always ran with the term clairsentience, simply clear sensing. I just go with what feels right. And, of course, when I'm telling people I'm being told such and such, that's because the dead people just don't shut up often.
No,
I
they don't.
literally get told.
They keep going. They keep
And
going.
Just in my own personal experience with that kind of stuff, I've never actually used anything. Okay, so no stones, no cards, no bones, no boards, anything.
I don't have to. I choose to because I seem to get better grounding at times. Depends on what's going on. I mean,
it's a good focal point for specifics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's very much a good focal point. One of the ones that I got told not to specifically state, what I can say about it is that it's dealing with an elemental.
Gotcha.
And yeah, I could get into really big trouble for saying exactly.
No, we don't need your house burning down.
But the point is
Rick
that
said if it's an elemental, it won't burn her house down. It'll take the whole city and the whole block.
Well, yeah. We don't need that either.
But water is also another source. Although I want to say it's contaminated. I'm going to get into trouble for saying that. But anyway, the city doesn't look at it that way. But anyway,
Okay, well.
But yeah, it's got a lot of different things in it, and so I'll run water. I mean, if I'm having a day where I know that...
So, like earthbound elements, then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I even had somebody say, well, put your feet in dirt. Well, I can't do that anymore because my skin is so sensitive, I end up with real severe health problems. So,
You do realize, Nikki, that doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means it's not wise.
Yeah, I found out other ways to do it. That's just what I was going to say, was that I find other ways to go out. I'll go outside. I'll find a different way. I can't necessarily put my feet in the dirt. I can put it on top of the dirt, but I have to have my feet covered. It's just not touching soil. So yeah, there are other ways of having elementals. It just depends on what's going on. And I think a lot of psychics do so many different methods or ways or use different tools.
I was asked one day why I use tools at all. And my immediate comment was, what they did was they said, do you need these tools? And I looked at them and I said, no.
No. Yeah, none of us do.
Why do you use them? I say because it distracts the querent. People seem to have this idea that the cards will tell you more than the instinct will.
Oh, Pete's sake. Yeah, that's true. They do.
So I use them as a distraction for them as a bookmarks.
I don't use it for them. I use it for me because I seem to find, like Eric had said, I get better focus sometimes with it. Also, and I can't necessarily say it's better grounding, but in some ways it is, depending upon what's going on in my life.
Mm-hmm. It does work that way for a lot of people. This is why I said I'm not a good example, because I don't use a lot of tools usually, simply because, well, politely put, I'm lazy.
Mm-hmm.
So I just can't bother.
That goes for not just psychics, but that goes for paganism in general. You don't have to have candles. You don't have to have, objects. Your energy and your spell work, your ritual work, everything comes from you anyway. It's just a focal point. It's easier to focus on the colored candle based on the aspect you're trying to get done. It's easier to get into the right state of mind with the right incense to get you into the right focal point. They're all tools to get you focused in what your intention is.
Okay.
Ultimately, yes.
So, next question. Can you ever be... Say again?
Wait a minute.
Okay.
I want to go into the clear tasting, which is clear gustance.
Okay.
And clear touching. People that can, like me, that can touch an object and can get what I call psychic hits. Other people are like, well, they're psychic visions. I'm like, whatever. There are different things that you can achieve with that kind of thing. So, like touching a building, like an old building, like from the 1800s, early 1900s, and you're seeing all sorts of stuff just from touching the brick. Typically, most people can touch metal. Usually, metal is a conductivity thing, and so most people will touch. If they have this ability, it's usually a metal conductivity. So there's that, and then the other one was...
so with that, a doorknob would be a perfect example. You walk up to a house and grab the doorknob, you know exactly what's going on inside the home, to an extent.
Yes. The other one...
That's doing it the hard way.
True. The other one is clear tasting. You can actually taste what a person has eaten. So if you've got somebody in astral, it's kind of disgusting, but the fact of the matter is if you have somebody that is in astral and they've just eaten, say, chocolate, or have smoked, or have...
sushi.
Yeah, sushi, whatever.
That'd be
or
nasty.
Garlic.
Oh, I wouldn't like sushi.
I had a guy show up here in astral who had just had something with garlic, and I suspect it was a pasta sauce with garlic and pesto and basil and all of that, and because I could taste it, and I was like, dude.
At least you knew he wasn't a vampire.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's comical, but... So what was that other thing you were trying to get to there, Eric?
Say again?
Yeah.
I said, what was that other thing you were trying to get to?
Oh, the next question?
Yep.
Can you ever be tricked by a spirit or other entity into thinking they are something or someone they aren't? And how can you vet the truth?
Focus.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly with the focus thing, and absolutely they can do it. Okay. I got it. The reality is any entity can trick people. Or trick other entities, for that matter.
True. But
it's like spotting a charlatan in real life, or spotting a liar. When they open their mouth, you know when there's a different feel to it if they're being honest.
Okay, yeah, and that kind of brought that was kind of my question too. Because I know spirits, you usually know who they are because you can feel their energy or you can sense their energy. whatever the case is, how can they trick you?
Well, because they can modify their biomagnetic flux and thereby alter your perceptions. Or alter the surface perceptions. If you're not focused, they'll look like somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And they can alter their frequency.
Yeah, I was going to say vibratory rate. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
At which point they smell funny.
Okay.
True. That's very true. They do.
Or taste funny.
Or
Yeah.
taste funny, or look funny, or...
I've had a wannabe demon, evil spirit, trying to present itself as a demon to me, and I'm like, get the bleep out of here. You are not what you say you are. You're wanting me to think, and it's like trying to project it, and I'm like, no.
You're so much nicer than I am. The last one that tried that... Yeah, the last one that tried that with me, I introduced them to a real demon.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I could do that. But I choose not to, because then I don't want them. I don't want the demon teaching that, and I know the royalty, the Jinn royalty, and he doesn't like it when his lower downs do stuff like that. It pisses him off, and I've seen him do some. But he does things that I can't even. I'm like, whoa. Okay, I'll just kill him, or I'll feed him to his dogs. And his dogs love me. I mean, because I've fed a couple of really, truly evil spirits, with his permission, to his demon, what I call the demon dogs, and they're wicked looking, man. They love me. I call them puppies. They're like, you got any more snacks for us, Nikki? I'm like, no, not right now.
Milk bones.
Just wait. Yeah, sorry about that.
Do you feel science can ever prove psychic ability, or will be willing, or will be willing to prove science?
Willing is where the problem is. Is it provable? The answer is definitively yes, absolutely, unequivocally.
Mm-hmm.
I know of people that have been.
Sorry, go
Are
on.
they gimmick?
Providing they're choosing to use the right ways to go about it, yeah, scientifically wise. But yeah, I agree. It's totally provable.
I'm living proof that they can prove it. Okay, and I know somebody else that has been tested so many times.
Yeah.
And that it can be proven. But the problem is that the scientists on the whole don't want to go, yeah, this really works, because they cannot, as of yet, control it.
Bingo. And that's the whole thing. They want to control it so that they can make money from it. Everything's about greed. What were you going to say, Keith?
More often than not, they don't want to release it. They don't want to explain it because, quite frankly, they're afraid of it.
And rightly so. But at the same time, if they learned from it, they could... The amount that they could potentially do from it, I know the government... Okay. I'm not going to say how I know this. But I know that the government has a team who deals with psychics in a very specific way. And they've gotten it down to a science, I do have to say. And they're pretty damn good at it.
Well, this is why I said it can be trained.
Yeah.
You can teach anybody to do it. Well, not anybody, but there are people that are gifted enough they can be taught how to do it. They may not know they're gifted enough, but science can absolutely prove it.
Yep.
Okay. The reality is that science, the problem that they're having with it is they're still missing certain fundamental things to let them prove it. Not the least of which is they don't understand the theory of relativity, which is really screwing up their research.
Well, not only that, bit of a different subject, but on the same subject at the same time. If we were able to use all of our brain, if
I'd like
humans...
people to use 5% of it.
Oh, it would be wonderful, wouldn't it be? Oh, my word. Anyway, that's beside the point.
Sorry.
So, that's quite all right. Point being, if we humans were able, and we were able to at one point, I know that,
Yep.
use all of our brain, we would be incredibly powerful and incredibly dangerous to each other. And I think that could scare a lot of different governments.
You know what the funny part is?
What's that?
You've made one miscalculation on that. When the human brain evolves to the point that people are actually willing to use the higher senses, they become no danger to each other. Because you eliminate greed, you eliminate debauchery, you eliminate fear. Well, fear will still be there, but you'll eliminate a lot. The jealousy will go. Net result. I mean, the reality is we used to have it to a point where we could physically manifest whatever we required.
I remember being an ET. I can't remember what race it is, but I remember being, in one of my past lives, I was an ET. And I know that, I would agree with what you were talking about. We were not evil to each other. So I would agree with that, yeah.
So can it be proven? Certainly. I mean, I know I sat for one day in particular on the airplane, and the guy asked me if I knew anything about energy, and I went, yeah. I said, I don't have a lot of choice. So he says, can you explain that? I says, well, better than that, I can show you. And so I flipped down the table, the airline table. I said, put your hand above that. So he did, and I put mine below it, and I concentrated for a minute, and he all of a sudden shook his hand and pulls it back and looks at me and goes, okay, I can feel that. I says, great, so why are you so wound up? He says, I'm so wound up because I'm the guy that designed the chemical compound of those tables to make sure energy can't pass through them. Oh. He says, if anybody had told me that was possible, I'd have told them flat out they were full of it. I says, so what do you do now? He says, now I go back to the drawing board and try and figure out what you just did.
They're not going to figure out what you just did, because I know what you just did, and I've experienced it quite literally, quote-unquote, firsthand. They'll never figure it out. They don't know what you and people like you can do.
The thing is, it's actually quite easy to explain. It's simply molecular biomagnetics. There is no difference between putting your fingers together and reaching across the room and touching somebody on the other side of the room. It's still one molecule to the next.
Yep.
I personally have always thought about science and abilities as two different paths to the same answers.
Essentially correct.
Yeah.
By the way, so is religion.
Everything will meet up in the
end. Religion is the way to explain the inexplicable until science can figure it out. And science is the way to explain the psychic phenomenon until it can figure it out. Basically, science works as guesswork. But quantifiable guesswork.
Right.
But see, they'll still not be able to figure it out, Keith. And that's just my personal opinion. I don't think they'll ever get it sorted out. At least not in our lifetime.
I'll call you on that one for one reason.
I believe that they will.
I'll call you on that one for one reason, Nick.
What's
you
that?
Just finished saying that the government has figured out how to put these people to use. Well, if they figured that out, then they figured out how to control it to a degree.
Bingo. There's the key right there. To a degree. What I'm saying.
Yeah, I will agree
I don't think they'll be able to fully. Okay, the term "fully master it" is being called to my mind right now.
Well, that one I'll give you, because it will have to evolve beyond human state in order to fully master.
Yeah.
So
Now,
humans will have a problem with the fully mastering.
do you see having abilities as a blessing or a curse, and why?
That's a toss-up.
It's both. In my opinion, it's both. It can be both a blessing and a curse. There are times where I'm extremely thankful and incredibly grateful that I have these abilities, that I've gone this lifetime with these abilities, and that they've gone as far as they have, and that they're going to go a lot further than I anticipate. I've already been told that, and I already know that. But it's also been a curse in a lot of ways because it is very alienating. And
I don't know, I get along fine with aliens.
So,
now,
turn break.
and now that I'm older, I can honestly say that I can deal with that now. I couldn't when I was younger. When I was raising my son, that would have driven me nuts. Completely.
See, I'm lucky. My shrink told me I was fine. But, the reality is that, they have their uses, but they absolutely put you outside the line.
Yeah, big time. In a big way. And
depending on where you grow up.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for our last break for the show. Third hour, we're going to talk a lot more into protection. We're getting a lot of questions in the chat room as far as what would a new psychic need for protection. What do you guys recommend for protection, grounding, shielding, that kind of stuff? So when we come back, we'll go into psychic protection.
You are listening to S4 on Spreaker.com.
now with your host, Eric Cooper.
Joe. And welcome back to S4 for our last hour tonight on everything psychics and the paranormal. And we have Joe with us now. How's you been roasting marshmallows, Joe?
I sticks out and marshmallows and it's ready to go, but we had the fireballs and the helicopters over and they took care of the one that's still closed. And back to normal now.
And now you're choppy again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
It's the fire.
It's a fire. It's a fire.
Yeah. I'll just sit back and listen.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So, first off, what do you recommend for psychic protection?
Personally, surround yourself with a bubble of white light. Surround that bubble with mirrors facing away from you, and then run real thick, healthy roots right from the soles of your feet straight to the core of the earth. That'll about solve the problem, in most cases, of just standard operational.
Mm-hmm.
I would totally agree with that.
What?
What?
I'm saying I would
think
never fuck with the mirrors.
Well, you don't like mirrors anyway.
Well,
that's why
one
the
of the
mirrors
ways-
are facing away. It reflects the negative energy
Yeah.
back at whoever generated it.
Well, and you know, with that, you can put a mirror in your window of your home facing out.
Bad idea, really
No.
bad idea.
No.
Unless you're trying to go broke.
Huh?
I said really bad idea unless you're trying to go broke.
Trying to go broke. Explain.
Mirrors
trying to go
will
broke.
reflect energy, but they are really good at reflecting prosperity.
Oh, I got you.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Okay.
also pretty damn good at reflecting sunlight, and you're going to start a fucking brush fire, Eric.
Well, yeah.
Well, that too, but,
there
you
is
know.
that right now.
and mirrors are also portals.
Yeah, no, you know what?
Not always. But
Not always, but they are a key component in building a psychomantium, and those are great, but I wouldn't recommend it. No, I'm not going into how to build that on air.
No, you
Kidding.
keep saying that. You keep saying that.
Okay, I've said this 1.5 million. My entire I have no mirrors. I do not do mirrors at all.
That's because you're a vampire.
Can't
You
handle.
got mirrors in your bathroom.
Ugh. I have one mirror in the bathroom that is high enough up that I can't see into it, and it is small enough that it works for the kids to brush their teeth in the morning. I do not touch it. I don't go near it.
Wait a minute, how tall are your kids?
Like 6'2".
No, they're
Oh, okay,
not.
that would explain that.
They are so
I'm
not.
just thinking if it's too high for you to look into, and yet the kids can see into it, there's a problem.
So
Dude,
I mean,
I'm
you're-
like 5'0". Everybody's
Okay.
taller than me.
Ugh.
if that sounds familiar.
Why are you lying to our listeners?
What?
You are 5'4". John is 5'5".
Okay.
Oh.
Like,
Whatever, they're still all taller than me.
Uh-huh.
Except for Kim.
See, I'm
Yeah.
5'2", so hello. Everybody's taller than me. So,
So-
why don't you like mirrors?
I have never liked them. I have no idea why. I have no, horrible experience that I can say, oh, it was because of a mirror or anything like that, but I do not do reflective surfaces. I do not like them.
because she's a vampire.
An alien vampire? Seriously? Oh my god, that's the worst of both worlds.
Friend. She abducted the
I don't know,
wrong guy.
vampires are nice people.
What?
Oh, then she's not a
I said
vampire.
vampires are nice people.
Well,
You
it
do
depends.
realize you're sleeping outside tonight, right?
Yes, she is. There's no mirrors outside.
See, and that's why
He said you.
that's why Joe has the pointy sticks to keep the vampires out of his bunker.
Oh, so now I'm not allowed in your bunker. All right, whatever, Joe.
All you have to do is drink some water.
Okay.
I was thinking, I have a couple of antique mirrors in my place. One's a great big mirror that was behind the bar, some place back in New York State that my grandfather owned many, many years ago. It's a big old mirror. Never had any problems with that. Another one is it was a caving tower, like a 8-foot-tall bronze or brass lady, and she's holding a bowl where you're in one arm where your shaving brush would go, and then she's holding up like a Statue of Liberty, this little round mirror about the size of a softball. Those are really, really old, and I've never had any problems with them.
Cool. I am not ever going to Joe's bunker. That's not happening, man.
Well, if S4 could ever make it to the UFO conference in, I believe, San Francisco, then we'll definitely stop through. So what are your favorite, we talk about protection, and you've got the shielding, basically is what you described so far. What do you recommend for stones, for herbs? There's so many different variations of protection you can use.
Well, I know from my standpoint, it's not so much which stones to use. It's which ones you don't use.
Okay. So which ones don't you use?
Yeah.
Don't bring clear quartz with you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, don't.
It's a general amplifier.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Definitely black tourmaline and, for pity's sake. I just had it in my head, now it's gone.
You got stones in your head, that's good.
Obsidian, oh yeah, that's wonderful. Black obsidian and black tourmaline, and because of you guys, I learned about red brick.
Also hematite.
That's nice.
Yes, hematite, that's the other one. It likes to, you gotta watch out for hematite unless it's smoothed and shiny and all that, because that's the one that likes to shred. Really
like to
easily.
shatter.
See, the only thing that has ever worked for me, is agates. Everything else, no, I have no affinity for anything else.
See, I just simply tap in with the Caboran, and quite frankly, there's a whole lot more of her than there is any other stone. Also known as direct to planet Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what about...
I have a lot of big obsidian around here. A lot of them. And honestly, a piece of obsidian at the end of a bony stick, that's good protection.
Oh, jeez.
And you throw it.
Because that will handle not only the spirits, it'll handle the physical.
Yeah, absolutely.
Each person does stones differently, so it's whatever is to them, specific to them, whatever they gravitate towards.
Mm-hmm.
But in answer to the other part of that, I look at that sandalwood, frankincense, or cedar works really nice.
Mm-hmm.
That's true too.
Glass.
Say a lot of people use sage and Palo Santo. I haven't. I mean, I've used some sage, but mine is for protection. I use energy. I use a specific kind of energy, and that usually gets people to back off, or the spirit, or the demon, or whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's why, yeah. But when you start dealing with that, you're not necessarily, if it's chasing them away, it's not necessarily just a protective thing.
Yeah, true.
It's kind of like molecular disassociation works really well to make people go away. Unfortunately, it usually creates a bigger problem for them.
Oh, if I'm under attack, they don't get a warning. But if I'm not under attack and they're just being a pest, they'll get a warning, and then the next one is they get nailed. But yeah, I mean, it's but for protection, you have to, as a budding psychic, learn to ground, learn to center, learn to meditate. Those are the 3 biggest things you need to do. They are crucial in what you do as a psychic anyway, but they are crucial in part of your learning in how to protect yourself. Then start learning how to with your energy.
So that actually goes right into my next question of, do you feel someone who has a psychic gift should have additional forms of protection than just the average paranormal investigator or, the rest of the team? Should you be more shielded and more protected than the rest of the team because you are more vulnerable?
Not because you're more vulnerable. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Keith.
Okay, not because you're more vulnerable, but because you're more visible.
Okay.
Yes. Your energy is like a star. It's like you radiate energy, and it draws entities and spirits and somebody just told me you're like the brightest sun. You're literally giving off a shine. S-H-I-N-E. Okay? Mm-hmm. You're literally shining in the paranormal, and they get drawn to you in a huge way.
Well, think of it this way. Take a bunch of people, put them in an auditorium, turn the lights out completely. Make sure they're all sitting 3 feet apart from each other so you can't feel anybody. Leave them sit there for an hour or two, and then have one person take a Bic lighter and fire it up. And you'll find everybody draws towards them.
Yep.
Especially if
exactly
I can touch somebody 3 feet away.
Right.
That's exactly what it's like. I mean, it draws everybody in. Every paranormal, somebody just used the word deity. That's not what I was going to say. You literally draw in... Yeah, it does fit. You draw everything into you. Good, bad, and indifferent. And...
I don't know if I'd call it definitely too.
Yeah, definitely inhuman. So my thing is that if I were going in, I wouldn't just be protecting me. I would be protecting every person on that team. And you do not need a lot of energy to do that as a psychic. I mean, unless you're drawing from yourself, then that's going to cause a bit of a problem, and you're going to drain yourself
real fast.
Real super fast. So there are ways of protecting other people without using your own energy. I do it quite frequently with certain people. So, but I don't use my own energy to do it.
I never use my own energy. I found it was too draining.
Yeah, it's much
I can
too
understand
draining.
what you're saying about you being like the light, and that energy is going to come toward you. But what I'm hearing is it's like a squad of soldiers, and only one guy gets a flak jacket because he's more than likely to get shot. The medic or something,
You're the target.
Just everybody should have a flak jacket.
Everybody should have a flak jacket, but if you're in the middle of night maneuvers and only one of you is packing around a flashlight, that's the guy that's getting shot.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
that's why we don't pack flashlights.
He deserves to be shot.
It's called noise and light.
Shot by one of his own guys.
But yeah, you're absolutely right. The medic and the communication guy are the ones who target the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
The medic, I believe, has 10 seconds. The communication guy's got 3, and that was a Vietnam statistic.
Well, that sucks.
Yeah, I would love to know who the genius was when out there and checked out that statistic.
You're right. That's kind of...
No, thank you.
I mean, talk about a statistic.
No kidding.
I wasn't too worried about it.
Speaking about rocks for protection, before you guys get too far away from it, I've always had pretty good luck at this place. I mean, my property is very lucky. There's good things happening here, and there's nothing malevolent. And for decades and decades, we've had mine rock all through the driveway and coming up the road. And in fact, last year I put 15 tons of crushed mine rock out and spread it all out. And it's all granite. The thing is that maybe protecting the place.
Granite can be both a conductor and a I lost the word. It just went right out of my head.
It's another
Granite is
form of amplifier.
Yes, thank
I can't really
you.
get away from it. I've got huge boulders that are around my house, plus all this crushed mine rock. I was wondering maybe it's just helping, or I don't know.
Yeah,
I thought I'd
yeah.
ask you guys.
I'm actually surprised that you don't have more Sasquatch. If
He
you've
does.
got that kind of mineral going on.
They came through the other night. I've got video on an audio I was going to send you guys.
Nice.
Had 4 of them come through, and one of them, I don't know if he was a really stupid one, but he was trying to sound like a hawk. Wasn't doing a good job, but I've got the video. I'll send it to you in the.
That's not necessarily a stupid one. He may just be trying to learn a new call sound.
He was
Either
close.
that or he's young. Youth. Could have been a youth.
But it was 2:00 in the morning. It was just silent. There could be no crickets or nothing going on. And then I heard him coming, and there was at least 4 different ones.
He got drunk on blackberries.
Oh, good.
Smoking. Trying to sneak through woods, and right in the middle of an absolute open desert, you're trying to sneak through the brush, and you're trying to make a sound. So you think of a wild animal, and you make a cow.
Right.
Oh, I've had him do that.
Oh, that's bad.
I've heard the wild cow in the woods once. It was hilarious.
Oh God, I can't wait to the fair because I can't wait to hear the stories, and that's gonna be part of our fun time next week.
Fun.
So are you going to be there Wednesday through Saturday?
Yeah, you guys need to come down. I know you can't, Keith. You're too far away.
Wednesday through Saturday, 10 to 10.
Yep.
What area are you going to be in? Are you going to be in one of the buildings?
The fair.
We'll be outside. It's an outside booth.
Yeah, we're over in the vendor area.
Okay.
It's got to be an outside booth if they're hoping Bigfoot's going to come by.
Right.
Bigfoot won't go into the building.
No, I don't think Bigfoot's going to come.
He'll bring it to Skagit.
I know that area very well. There's no Bigfoot.
The dinosaurs are going into the building.
Are they?
Yep.
Huh.
There's a lot of residents around that fairground, so yeah.
They got babies at this one.
Baby dinosaurs?
Yep.
Oh, they're going to be about as tall as Bigfoot.
They're going to be walking around the whole fairgrounds.
Cool.
Was that whole CERN project? Okay,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. I really want to hit this question hard because it's we have new psychics in the chat room. How can someone new who has gifts enhance them or tune them out? And I really want to hit the protection side for anyone that's new, that's developing their abilities. And I know we've been talking about that a lot the last 15 minutes, but yeah, what's the best form of protection they can use, and can they tune them out?
I'll tell you what, if they ever figure out how to tune them out, please drop me a line and let me know.
Well, okay.
I mean, I've
been
been doing this for 58 years and haven't figured that one out.
I'm going to tell you something. When something happened to me in 1989, I literally privately told myself, I can't remember exactly how I worded it, but it was stated something along the lines of, you can never allow, and I didn't use the word abilities, I used something different to come. I said, you can't allow this to come through. This will make a major difference. And I cut off a lot of the abilities that I had. I stopped them from growing and expanding. So I thought.
I was going to say, I knew somebody that did that, and it cost her marriage. You know, where
this
comes to
cost
shutting them
me
off.
This cost me almost my sanity. So
There's
no real foolproof way to shut off spirits, to shut off your abilities. You can turn them down, but you can never shut. Yes, and you can turn them down, but you can never actually shut them off or completely tune them out. Not unless you've had some kind of head trauma. TBI, traumatic brain injury. I don't even think then they would be
that's
shut
not
out.
called shutting it down because,
Well, no, that's a
if you've had a
that's a
TBI,
injury.
if you've had a TBI, the senses come in even faster because you don't even have the psychological barriers. But what you can learn to do, and it literally boils down to a stubborn streak, is you can learn to focus past them and only focus on the physical senses. Doesn't mean you won't see them, that you won't pick them up, but you won't register them much.
And you can also put word out to the other side that they need to back off. I mean, they're not going to necessarily, just because you're that bright light in a darkened area, they're still going to be attracted to you. But to actually hear them, that's a different story. You, like what Keith had talked about, if you focus, I want to say the right way, but there really is no right way. But if you focus a certain way, you can start to slowly tune them out to some degree or turn them down, turn down their volume. The other thing is that if you raise your frequency, you have a harder time in hearing them, because if your frequency is so high, they have to tune their frequency in order for you to hear them.
Well,
at least
I'm
that's
going to
been
punch
my
a hole in that one.
And you can punch away, because I'm here to tell you this has been my experience, so it may or may not work for somebody else.
Well, I know that the higher my energy has gotten, the easier it's been for me to hear.
Yeah, and see, with me, that doesn't work like that. So that fascinates me how that works like that for you.
That's
and
why
I
I
get
work
told,
in the fields I do.
Mm-hmm.
I get told that by other psychics that talk to the spirits that are around me, they tell those friends, she doesn't listen. No, I tend to try not to listen, because there are a lot of times where I'll get so many spirits come in that it's like, no, I do not want 15 of you standing around the head of my bed while I'm trying to go to sleep, and they're all having a chit-chat with each other while I'm trying to sleep, and I can hear them all. So
I get told I don't listen all the time. I just don't listen to them telling me that.
Yeah, so I know that I've had a lot of spirits get really frustrated or actually downright angry with me because I don't listen. Well, I do listen to a certain extent. I'm not tuning in 100% all the time anymore, because I'm working more with a lot of the hierarchy work, and you get bogged down with that stuff faster than anything, and you get crime victims coming to you wanting to give you their last memories and talk to you about it, and because it's their psychological way of dealing with it. They don't have somebody else to talk to about with it. They haven't found another psychic. And I'm like, hey, wait a minute. There are plenty of psychics out on this planet. Seriously.
Something you might want to point out to them, Nick. If you've got spirits coming to you asking you for help because they can't find another psychic, tell them to quit looking for the psychics, because there's lots of people on the other side that will help them sort around.
That's what I've done that, and they still return. And I'm like, no, you need to listen to the ones that you're talking to. You have to be willing. You have to be willing. And that's something that even us living humans, living, breathing humans, I should say, because they're living on a different side, have to understand. Yeah, that's a good way to. I should probably start using that.
So you bring up,
but
you bring
we
up.
We have to psychologically understand on this side of it that there is a psychological side of it. When if you're not understanding things on this side, when you get to the other side, doesn't necessarily mean you're going to know all and know everything. There are things that you're going to get stuck with psychologically until you move into another phase of your learning experience. Does that make sense?
Well, it makes sense in the linguistic side of it, but you were trying to ask something there, Eric.
Well, it's changing a topic, but you bring up a very valid concern that we've dealt with for years. You're driving down the road, you're going for a walk, whatever. You have a spirit that comes to you and says, "I was killed 2 years ago, 6 months ago, whatever, and my body is buried." Blah. The person that killed me is blah. What do you do with that? You go to law enforcement, it's going to be a double-edged sword because they're going to say, "How do you know this?" And
you're a suspect.
You're a suspect.
Okay.
And
Number one, police don't want the information. I mean, they do, but they don't. Unless you have, this is what I have been told by police detectives. This is what I was told by CIA. Okay? If you do not have a license number, if you do not have a street address or 2 cross streets and the name of the town and the state and the whatever, if you do not have definitive evidence that could place that where that person exactly is, or the first and last name of that person along with that other information, they don't want it. I had a CIA guy actually stand there and laugh in my face, okay? Because I gave him information. I said, I want, because you're in this specific field, in this specific area of the government, I want to know about blah. And he said, well, then ask the spirit that's giving you this information to give me a license number, to give me, and he went down this list. And I've had a police detective outright tell me they don't want the information, and because it's too vague for them. Well, what do you do when you're a psychic and you've got this information that can locate a body?
That's the easy part for me. For me, that's the very easy part.
Okay, what do you deal? How do you deal with it?
I just plain tell them flat out, I'm not going down that road for you. You want me to go down that road? Make contact with somebody else. Get them to come to me, and therefore the cops will then come to me to talk to me. But I will not volunteer the information to anybody.
Yeah, I did that once. I got told, I can't say by who, but I got told to do that because it was my lawful, quote unquote, lawful duty, legal duty. I'm not going to say. So
you got told by somebody on the other side it was your legal duty?
No.
In the physical?
Human, living, physical.
Well, couldn't you just do some beautification of that area and say, oh shit, look what I found?
Well, no. So most of these cases, though, they're the bodies in Montana, the bodies in Alaska, the bodies, it's always going to be right here in our backyard. It's never in our backyard.
Better not be in my backyard.
The fact
well, in
this
case it might be. I don't know.
The fact is, unless you are a psychic who is already working with authorities, they're not going to take your information. What I did get told by a retired detective, somebody who I do trust, who's no longer living now, they specifically told well, she died a horrible death, but anyway, but it was health related. Anyway, wonderful person, really, really liked her. She specifically told me when she was living to write up the information anonymously and send it to whatever precinct that was handling a specific situation, specific case. See if you could track down a case number for it. If it's not a case number, still write up the information that you've got as anonymous and send it to whatever precinct it belongs to. She specifically told me a lot of times detectives will read it if it follows with some key piece of information that you wrote up follows some part of one of the cases that they are working on, even if it's a cold case, they will keep it. If it doesn't, it gets trashed. She literally said it gets thrown in the trash can next to their desks. And I went, whoa, okay.
Now, couldn't you just pass that particular spirit on? Like, okay, so if they are continuously coming to you... No. What I mean is, if they're continuously coming to you over and over and over again, and you keep telling them there's nothing that you can really do about it, couldn't you pass that spirit on to somebody that you know already works for an agency?
In there, done that.
And and that person may not have the open sensitivity to spirits. I like Robert's.
No,
I like Rob.
I've actually done that. I actually had two spirits come to me, one female, one male, and I found out who a specific person was. I wrote it down and I said, this is who you need to contact. And I said, they're a psychic. They work with Canadian police. They work with U.S. police and the FBI. And I said, contact them. If you can get them to listen to you, then that's the way to go about it. And that's what I've done ever since, because I'm like, this is what they want, their body to be found. They want closure for their family.
Absolutely.
Their family is grieving. I understand that. I cannot go, even if I get a first name and a last name, and I unexpectedly, like months later, find them on a social media because it pops up for whatever stupid reason. It pops up, and I'm like, oh my God, why do I recognize that last name? And then I'll go look in my books, and I'm like, wait a minute. And then I come to find out, even with that kind of information, it's not enough. That is what I've been consistently told by law enforcement. And I haven't dealt very often with law enforcement, but that's what I've dealt with when I have.
Well,
and it's extremely frustrating for me when I had a lot of crime victims come to me showing me what they went through in a horrific way. I had one man I will never forget, and it was because of this one woman who had died a horrible, horrible death. She came to me, won't get into what she saw, what she witnessed and experienced, but she put word out on the other side. I figured out what was going on. I was like, why am I getting all of these crime victims from this one and then I realized, my word.
Yeah.
You were trying to ask a question there.
Yeah, so if... Now, I might be handling that entirely the wrong way, and that could be totally true, but I'm not exactly the nicest of person to people that are horrible. So, make him feel her pain, and make him turn himself in.
I like the idea. Of course,
If
I'm
you-
also the guy that told the demon what he could do with himself.
Right? If you know exactly who this person is, they've popped up on your social media, their name's everywhere, everything is everywhere.
It was a family member of the victim.
Right. So, if you were to take all of that pain, all of that energy, and all of that everything and pass it through, and just continuously do that until that person kind of had one of those, like, mental breakdowns.
That's called karma.
Yeah, basically.
I was just going to say that's karma, but that would be the psychic putting the karma on them, and that you get in trouble for on the other side.
Karmic law is pretty black and white.
Yeah,
I've never
you
gotten
can
in trouble for anything.
You can actually, in different parts of magic, you can trigger somebody's all-encompassing karma. What happens is with that is it's all of the good, all of the bad, all at once.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you do that, you can have karma come back on you, on your soul. At least that's what I have experienced with other individuals that have talked to me about this. Other people may have different experiences with it, but this is what I've witnessed. Keith, you've got a question on your face. You've got a look on your face like you've got a question or comment.
In a manner of speaking, you bring in the idea of magic, only I didn't know you were into working with magic at all.
I'm really not. I've unexpectedly found out a lot of information and had to go up against somebody who was into some extremely deep, dark, black, 4 pieces of black magic that should never work. We're talking into necromancy stuff.
Fun.
Let's just leave it at that. Yeah, it really wasn't, trust me. And it took a team of us to deal with it.
I always thought it was.
Hey, I got to cut in real quick because I love Robert White's response here with how to, oh
get
dear,
the involved.
I was digging a hole for a tree and whoops, up came a body. Yeah, that'll get the cops.
Oh my.
My dog was digging at something.
Right? Yeah. I wanted to bring up a question, too, because Noam was saying if you're trying to help spirits, you got to get permission from the higher-ups, too. Yep. I tried talking to the Tinder date victim from the Nebraska. My abilities were cut off for a couple days.
I don't know. I always found
I don't entirely agree with that.
No.
I got to be honest. It's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
That's the way I do it. I mean, heck, I had a conversation with God the other day. It was absolutely priceless. With what you would call source or whatever.
Yeah.
Call it whatever name you want. He told me he had a job for me, and I looked at him and went, yeah, but unless I get what I want, you're not getting what you want.
Right.
He goes, well, that's not what we expect. I says, yeah, well, you probably should have thought about the fact he gave us freedom, free will, irrevocable even by you before you made that choice. Mm-hmm. Right. It's easier, especially in the metaphysical world, but remember one critical factor. Karmic law plays havoc, and it is all-encompassing.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Far easier to ask permission than to get to ask forgiveness and get permission. But the only person you really have to talk to isn't the higher-ups, because there isn't much higher-up. Okay, I mean, the spirits are in a certain point. If they're asking for help, they're the ones that have to actually do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's where I disagree about not much higher up. There's quite a few higher ups, and oddly, and I can't say that publicly. Okay, so there are higher ups than Source.
Yes, there are.
Yes.
Yeah, and in my experience, when you want to take a demon actually out and down, I found out that I had to have, like destroy it. Because you can destroy a demon. I've seen witness. So
everything bleeds.
There were 15 different, 12 to 15 different higher ups that I had to have permission to take one of these out. And it wasn't just me that took it out. There were a few of us, and it got taken out.
Maybe I just missed the entire hierarchy thing, because I just don't bother asking.
Okay, I gotta stop you for a second, Nikki. Is there someone in the room with you?
Yeah, why?
Did she just say
nobody
15 with you?
What?
Did you say
What
15
did you just
twice?
ask me? No, I said 12 to 15.
The 15
probably
came out
did
twice,
say
and it
50.
wasn't your voice the second time or the first time it was said. You hesitated
I
when
thought
you
I
said
heard that
15,
too.
Yeah.
and the first 15 wasn't you. They were filling in your sentence. I don't know who it was.
Huh.
Well, that's interesting.
We have an EVP on the show.
Yeah, and that means I need to. I haven't checked.
Well,
No, I've got a guy here. I don't have a female.
It is a female.
It is a female. Okay.
And
Okay, so basically what I've learned in my experiences is that when you take a demon out, and I will probably get nailed for this because of religious factors involved, but...
Oh, we don't worry about religious factors.
You don't. Nikki does.
Well, no, I really don't. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, I don't give a diddly boo one anymore. I'm to the point where it's like, you have your opinion, I know what I've experienced, and I know what I've witnessed.
Absolutely.
I've witnessed a demon be torn apart. I've witnessed it being completely destroyed. And there's no other way to say it, and I wasn't the only one who did it. And it can be done. And I know that Keith might disagree with me on that, but I've actually witnessed it. I've actually seen it done, and it's quite frightening. It can be quite frightening if you're really thinking about it. I was like, yeah, take that down because what he did. But yeah,
death is not worth death ends.
It's not worth what?
Death, as humans know it, is not the end.
No,
Funny thing is,
it's not.
If you know what soulmates are.
Yeah.
Well, if you disassemble somebody's spiritual form into soulmate and soul family components, you don't technically destroy them, but you set them back so far that it's going to be likely millennia before they get back to where they were.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay, I want to switch up because we're coming down to the last bit of the show, and I wanted to bring this up. It's changing the topic completely, but what are your thoughts? And I've got one. I'm not going to say this person's name specifically, but I have my own opinions about paranormal TV shows, and people that watch them and think they're reality, and it's not entertainment, they're real. So when it comes to these paranormal TV shows and they have a psychic or a medium on the team, which is complete crap and complete full of crap,
and a few other things that have to do with the same word.
But they're really irritating when they come to your community and completely ruin a family. But they have all these fans because they're a real medium. Hey, what's your thoughts as real mediums?
I don't think all of them are false.
99%?
No, not all.
I would say 99% of them are false, but not all of them are.
The one I'm thinking of is...
There are at least two that I can think of that aren't, though.
Yeah, same here. I can think of at least two that are not as well. And what I have learned about Hollywood and how producers and entertainment companies, they are entertainment companies. They're there for a reason. It is for... Most of these things are classified as entertainment purposes only. There's a reason it's classified as entertainment purposes. It's for entertainment. Hello.
So when do they get to the entertaining side?
Thank you. Because
that's my point.
Actually, I think they say that for legal reasons.
But the thing is, when these TV shows go...
Everything is scripted.
That's what
That's a
pisses
fact.
me off, though. Entertainment, I get. But when they actually take their TV show to a real person's house as a real paranormal team and a real medium, and they completely decimate that family, that's where it crosses the line.
Oh,
For me, that is
I
nothing
agree.
short of abuse.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
It should be
Yes.
treated as such.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and the family
In,
should go
in
after them
particular,
legally.
there's
But the
one, I
family
can't think of what they call her, but her...
They've probably signed, the family has probably signed some kind of contract. So, in my opinion, the families that have experienced this need to go after the companies legally. But I doubt if they can because they have probably signed some kind of contract.
And see,
So
the contract...
that's the other side to think of it.
Right, but the contracts also does not, include the fact that they get death threats from the fans because, well, hey, we don't listen to this person.
Actually, most of them do.
It's
a clause in the very little bottom.
Well, this family was right here in Concord.
Yeah, I'm just saying that.
And so that, that's really where I draw the line. And that's...
Mind you,
Why I didn't like paranormal TV shows to begin with, and when that incident happened, then I went full bore against all paranormal TV shows because, entertainment's great. I don't watch it because I don't see the paranormal as entertainment. You want to watch entertainment, then great, watch the TV shows, but it's not reality. But then you have the paranormal teams that develop, and they base all of their paranormal education off, say, Ghost Adventures, which, again, is entertainment.
I think they should base it off the Blair Witch Project, because that was a good movie. No,
The Blair Witch Project? I think my favorite part of that movie was when you were looking... I think that my favorite part of the movie is when you're looking straight up the girl's nose. But yeah. So we are coming down to the last few minutes. Nikki, if someone needs help from a psychic, where can they reach you?
Still haven't gotten the computer taken care of yet. So contact me on Facebook via private message. It's Nikki, Nikki .Jacobs, JACOBS .376. And that's where you will find me right now. And as soon as I get the laptop up and taken care of, I will be able to access my email. So that's where I'm at.
Excellent. And Keith, where can we find your YouTube video? And if people need help from you, and where can we find your books?
Fastest way to find anything about me is on my YouTube channel, which is Inner Voice Enterprises. On the YouTube, also my Facebook page under the same name. Easy to identify me on Facebook. I've got a hand carved wooden UFO as a faceplate.
Okay. Excellent. And again, for our listeners, if you are local or if you're in Washington State, come to the Skagit County Fair in Mount Vernon, Washington, Wednesday to Saturday. And make sure you stop by the S-4 booth and say hi. Check us out. And again, like I said in the beginning of the show, I will be in a TV series called The Town. I will be Alan Daniels in the first 10 minutes of the pilot series. Make sure you go on the Town miniseries Facebook page and give them a like.
All right.
We didn't even get into the religious aspect of psychics. Did you guys want to add anything to that? We have about 5.
Be careful.
We have about 5 minutes of that.
I ran into one. From my standpoint, it was fun. I was walking through the park, and I heard this guy tearing an absolute strip off this young woman, right off this young girl, because she was tattooed and she had piercings, and he started in on her, telling her she was the spawn of the devil, and I'm just walking by when he starts in on her. She's almost in tears, and I stopped cold and I looked at her and I says, "Gee, I didn't know we were related. I'd have dropped by earlier." And the guy looked at me, and it turned out he had a white collar on. He looks at me and he goes, "What do you mean?" I says, "Well, I've been told I'm the devil incarnate. That makes her my daughter. So you want to leave her alone?"
Right.
He turned absolutely chalk white and ran away.
See, that's what, but that's what kills me, the hypocrisy of it. In that, you know, you've got all psychics are evil, but at the same time, they listen to prophets and prophecies, and there's no difference between prophecies and what psychics do.
So sure there is. The prophecies are written into the Bible some 2,000 years ago. Mm-hmm. Some of them not that long ago, but same idea. Psychics are living today.
Right, but they're doing the same thing. They're still predicting the future. So have you guys, as psychics, ever been threatened?
Oh, heavens, I was condemned.
I've been threatened. I've had ministers tell me I'm full of caca and a bunch of other things when I've told them certain things have happened, and then I've had a couple of friends where I wouldn't take my infant son at the time, into a house because the house had an entity. I was like, no, I'm not walking. You will not walk my child into this house. And yeah, we ended up with a gigantic prayer circle in the basement of that house that night. And then that friend that started the prayer circle told me, oh, it was a friend of theirs and they were off their meds. And I'm like, no. Sweetie, that is not what took place. That's not what I picked up, and it's not what I saw when I walked into this empty bedroom in this house. That had nothing to do with it. There was a murder in that house, and I told him explicitly what I saw, and he's like, wow, okay. And, I mean, he believed me, but I was, because I don't lie about stuff. I don't lie. I'm like, hello, I tell you straight out what I see, and that's what I saw, and he thought it was his friend off his meds, and I'm like, no, sweetie, that's not what was going on. There's bad mojo here, and he died. Horrible death. You're angry.
Big rule of thumb when it comes to religion, and it's always been how I felt about every religion, and it's, you believe what you want to believe, you do what you want to do. Just don't spend your time and energy trying to push that belief on the people around you, because they are also going to believe what they want to believe and do what they want to do.
Mm-hmm. See, the silly part with religion, I've looked into a lot of them, and this is why I only promote the 3 karmic laws, and that is that every one of the commandments from every religion I've looked at all fit inside those 3. And it's amazing for a group of people, a global group of people that talk about peace and love thy neighbor. It is amazing how many wars are started because you don't believe in the same one.
Mm-hmm.
And see, the Christians I know, they're not. Years ago, I used to know some hardcore, what some people would call Bible thumpers, and those people are not in my life anymore. The people that are in my life I've got every walk of life of friends in my life now, and
well, except for Bible thumpers, apparently.
And we're all very respectful of each other. Typically, I mean, there's every once in a while you'll get a political thing, but it's not very often. I mean, we're all very respectful of each other in that way, and I appreciate that because it didn't used to be like that.
Now, see, for me personally, I believe that everybody has a choice in their own religion, and they can decide whatever they want to decide. Yep. And exactly. I have friends that are very, very religious. I also have friends that have absolutely no religion at all. I mean, and they fall in all of these categories. And as long as it is not what bonds you together, then it shouldn't matter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And on that note, we do have to wrap it up. And so again, come see us at the Skagit County Fair, Mount Vernon. And remember, there is no show next week because we will be recovering from the fair. So we will see you.
You're going to have the 26-ounce flu, are you?
Say again?
I said you're pre-planning the 26-ounce flu?
Absolutely.
Yep.
No.
No? Okay.
Bigfoot Coffee in Mount Vernon now serves 44-ounce coffees. I'm going to have the 44-ounce flu.
Ooh.
6 times that day.
Oh,
Ooh.
Jesus.
That's
Don't do
awesome.
that. You're going to have the 44-ounce heart attack.
We will have our own coffee pot, actually, so we won't have to go get the 44-ounce flu.
Vitamin B12.
All right, so on that note, thank you for listening tonight, folks. Great show. And we will see you in a couple weeks if we don't see you at the fair. So, stay safe. And remember, keep your eyes to the skies.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us here at S-4 Radio. Remember to head over to Facebook, give us a like, and show your support. Are you feeling left out? Did you not get enough? Remember, you can always find us on Amazon Music, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, iTunes, and anywhere else you get your podcast globally. Join us every Sunday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for S-4 Paranormal Radio. And remember, keep your eyes to the skies.